Hello and welcome. I'm your host, Darshawn McAway. You're tuned in to Wild Podcast. Today we have a special guest on the line, Cheryl LeGrand. She's the author of Married to Single. Cheryl, how are you doing?
I'm doing fine.
So, let me talk to you a little bit about your book, Married to Single. I'm curious. Is there something that you desired to do, was to be married, or do you feel like you should have stayed single?
I was desired to be married at the time that I was married.
Mm-hmm.
And what happened was, when we got divorced, I decided to let other women know through their circumstances all things are possible. So that's what inspired me to write a book.
So what's so important about this book? And what I mean by that is, what was that aha moment to say, I need to write this book to reach other women?
Being married is a lot, because a lot of times we put a lot in our kids and we put a lot in our spouse. And I wanted women to know you are still an individual as well as being married. That's the reason why I did that, because sometimes we can lose ourselves. You know, we get wrapped up and when we are single, but once we get married, you know, we loving our husband, we loving our kids, and we really forget about us and the things that we need to do as an individual, that we was an individual before we met them.
Do your 3 children live by your principle of marriage?
They live by my principle, yes. Well, they believe in the principle through Christ.
Okay.
And what I mean by that, I want all my kids to have a successful marriage, and I want them to be married. But I also teach all of them, do not stay for the wrong reasons, for finance, for money, different things. But yes, I want all of my kids to get married and have a successful marriage.
So with being in a successful marriage, I'll ask this question. Why do you think most people end up cheating?
Because they haven't learned how to love themselves. First of all, they haven't learned how to love themselves. It could be for pleasure, boredom, a lack of communication. It's really a poor excuse to me that most people cheat. The relationship, a lot of times we forget how we met. The communication is lost, and a lot of times it's for pleasure, boredom, or they was doing it from the beginning.
Yeah. I have this theory that I think part of the reason, and I agree with yours, but I think part of the reason some people cheat is because they don't believe they're going to get caught. What do you think about that?
That's very true. I think they don't think they're going to be caught. And number one, a lot of times they was doing it from the very beginning. And when you are in love and you marry, you know, God shows us signs, but we don't see it. So on that note, once we don't see it, we accommodate a lot of things that's wrong from the beginning. And that's why it's very important that we love ourselves from the beginning and find out about ourselves. And then when we get into marriage, we will have an understanding. A lot of times we blind because we haven't found out who we are.
So how long did it take you to write Married to Single?
It took me maybe about a year when I wrote that book, because I was starting to write it a couple of years before, and I stopped, because I would tell anybody, if your mindset is not right, you're not gonna be successful with it. You got to feel the pain when you're writing, and you got to actually live through it in order to write the book.
So what has been the biggest takeaway or the biggest lesson that you've learned in writing or publishing this book?
The biggest lesson I have learned in writing this book is your mindset. It is so very important. We shortcome our own selves by living a life as we can't do it, especially when we have children and we already think, okay, what I'm going to do financially, mentally, or physically. But we have to step out on faith and keep pushing through.
Now, is this book catered to women only, or can some men pick it up and learn some lessons?
Yes, men can too. Both of my books actually go hand to hand. Married to Single and Behind Closed Doors. I want it to be for everyone. I didn't want it to be based on just women.
Okay, now, I know we wasn't going to talk about behind closed doors, but can you give the listeners a little bit of what behind closed doors is about?
Behind closed doors is about abuse. It is about mentally, physically, and socially. There's all kind of type of abuse. And once again, a lot of people stay together. Even when I was at church one day and the topic came up and the young lady said it, a lot of women can't feel like they can't leave. So they hide behind the doors, and when they come out in front of us, it's like everything is okay. And what I mean by that is the man paying the bills and, stuff like that. It's almost a fear. Anything that we do, if we put fear in it, we are not going to grow.
Well, now tell me this about behind closed doors. You mentioned that it's about abuse. Can you give me and anyone else that's listening maybe a tip or two to how to stay away from abusing someone emotionally or verbally?
Well, what I would say to everyone is this. There are signs from the very beginning that would determine whether that person is abusive. Controlling, number one. Manipulating, and also if someone hits you or put their hands on you and say they're not going to do it again, that's the biggest sign right there. And if someone loves you, they're not going to tear you down anyway. And they're not even going to try to make you feel bad, even if you have a discussion that you do not agree on. Them are the biggest signs of abuse. Verbal abuse can make each other feel dumb or inferior because each other's thoughts are not okay. Mental abuse can affect one emotionally, and the behavior can cause us physical well-being as well. And mental abuse can affect the way you communicate with each other. Don't get physical abuse and say, okay, mental abuse is better, because mental abuse will tear you down. Physical abuse is bad as well. You get a bruise, but mental abuse can destroy you and all the people around you.
So tell the listeners where they could go to purchase your book.
You can go on Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com.
Do you have any social media outlets?
Yes, I do. I'm on Facebook, and on Facebook, my name is Cheryl LeGrand.
Awesome. Now, is there anything you want the listeners to know about this book that they should purchase?
I think you all should purchase it because it's motivation. I'm 53 years old. I have lupus. I have 3 kids. And through all things, it's possible through Christ. It's not about your age, whether you 21 or in your 50s, you can do it. But you have to take fear out and step out on faith. I wanted to break the generational curse, in my family, and I wanted to show my kids as well. Regardless of what they're going through in life, don't ever let circumstances stop you from your purpose, because we all in life are going to have things that we have to face. But it's what we do when we facing them.
Well, you heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen. This is Wow Podcast. We're talking to author Cheryl LeGrand. She's the author of Married to Single. It's available on Amazon.com and Barnes & Nobles. Cheryl, it was a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure talking to you as well.